Can we go one day where the West isn't harassing a Japanese manga author for how they write their series? Because in the span of 48 hours, we had an offer of Gambari Nakamura-san ran off the internet and closed all their accounts online, basically saying they're quitting being an author while their anime is actively airing, which is basically a highlight of someone's career, their dream goal, and they shut everything down. Then, at 24 hours after that, we now have another offer, the offer of I Want the Losing Heroine to Win, now facing very similar online harassment, people going into their DMs on their social media accounts demanding them to write the story a certain way, and if they don't, they will continue to harass them indefinitely, demanding them to have certain characters end up with other certain characters, demanding them to write a certain way, all these different type of things. It's completely rude, it's completely disrespectful, and this is what the author that is facing this harassment had to currently say. Currently at this moment, their account isn't completely locked down, but you can see that replies are already locked, and most likely, if the harassment continues, we could probably see this offer potentially closing their account completely down, very similar to what happened to the other offer a few days ago. So let's see what they had to say. It seems like a lot of people reading for free on the overseas version of the site mistakenly think they're the ones steering the story. So I get a ton of requests like, if you don't pair XX and XX, then as a writer, blah blah blah. I'm thrilled to have fans overseas, but for how loud they are despite reading for free, I'd really appreciate it if they would just drop some cash first. And then, this is the offer also making another statement on a different account, retweeting the post as you can see here, saying this: Yo, free pirate users and overseas bros flooding my DMs with complaints about the rollout. Like, this is just one example. Man, usually about a week after the update date, the folks who get hyped on their illegal translations come storming into my DMs. I put out warnings like, don't read the pirate versions, but it's pointless. If you're going to send a DM, at the very least drop some cash or send a fan letter. And this is the DMs apparently the offer is receiving continuously, and harassment and all that. And from what I can see, I believe this is in Spanish. Correct me if I am wrong, but more or less from what people are confirming here is that people are going into the offers DMs demanding certain characters to be shipped with certain characters, the MC to end up with certain people, and basically overall just being very nasty, very rude, even though they're reading the series on pirated sites. And the offer is completely transparent here in this post, and even the initial post that I read, that they are aware that there's a lot of people overseas that read the series illegally. They're very well aware of this. They say that please don't do that, but at the same time, they're saying it's going to happen. But they're saying if you're going to read it illegally and read a pirated version, at the very least send them money somehow, or send them a fan letter. And in this case, they're not getting either or, and it's just completely disrespectful, and it's honestly really making this offer very upset, and you can see that there is definitely a bubbling point. Like, they're getting angrier and angrier as time goes on, because I want to point something out here. The date that this post was made here, this post was made today, a few hours ago, while this post that initiated and revealed this situation was made, when the offer of Gambari Nakamura was ran off the internet. So basically, within those 2 days, we have seen intense increase of harassment towards a lot of offers, and that it's ramping up and getting a lot worse. One of the ways we can see why this is happening is because of the algorithm shift on X, for instance, where the Japanese and English communities can now communicate with an instant translation of their posts. Because, like, when you click on a Japanese account, it's instantly translated, as you can see here. It's no longer appears like this. It just instantly translated, so you can instantly communicate with, like, offers all around the world instantly. And obviously this adds a new door that's open for cultural exchange, but it also brings in a lot of that toxicity around the world as well, and a lot of people within the Japanese community is experiencing this toxicity for the very first time, experiencing just how aggressive and angry some people get in the West about how certain fiction is written. And in this case, a lot of these Japanese authors that have romance are probably getting the blunt force of all this drama and issues, because we know how crazy shippers get, how they really want certain characters to be with certain characters, and they get outright toxic, send death threats. I have seen this over and over again with different series. Let's think of My Hero Academia. Very, very good example here. Think about if My Hero was still coming out right now, and with this new algorithm shift, how bad it would have been for Horikoshi Sensei. Like, I could not even begin to imagine. But what I want to point out here, though, is that there's a lot of offers now getting harassed, and it's getting worse. And I'm putting a spotlight on this to kind of make sure people can send some support, words of encouragement to this offer, and basically just, I don't know, just say something nice to them, because clearly what's going on here is completely despicable, and doing something like this to an offer and not, like treating them like absolute garbage is inexcusable. It's not right. There is no excuse for it whatsoever. And it's just like, all this is going to do is cause this offer either A, to become very angry and completely disregard any opinions from the West, or they're going to shut down their accounts, completely lock them down, and never interact with their community ever again, which is very disheartening because obviously, despite all the anger and evil that could be in the world, it is nice when you see an offer communicate with the community and talk with them and have an exchange of kindness. But obviously, with so many bad actors that come in and really want to ruin everything for everyone, it causes stuff like that not to really happen. And it really makes the entire situation with the Mushoku Tensei offer, Refugin, very distinct and different than everybody else I've seen on the internet when it comes to manga offers or offers in general for Japanese works. Because the offer of Mushoku Tensei, he straight up, he deals with a lot of harassment. I've covered it already many times on the channel, and there was one recently that I didn't cover but got pretty bad. He even had to make a straight up statement on the entire situation, and basically, despite all this harassment, he doesn't lock down his account, he continues to post, and he straight up says that he writes what he wants to write, he won't censor himself, he will continue to do what he wants to do, respect-based. But obviously, not many offers can deal with that. Not many offers can be able to put up with intense harassment, because obviously, when you're in your niche group and you're kind of slowly building up a successful offer, any type of work, honestly, there is a jump of popularity. And some people that become popular, they can't deal with it. They can't deal with the overwhelming popularity because so much harassment follows after that. This is why a lot of offers, like in Japan, for instance, they use pen names. They hide their face, they hide their gender, they don't reveal who they are because they don't want intense online harassment. They don't want people knowing who they are, harassing them for certain opinions online. They keep everything completely private, and that is what's going to cause more offers to go down that path because of situations like this. It's incredibly disgusting. I cannot believe people, once again, has not learned a thing, and we're seeing it again. Not even weeks later, not even months later, within the span of 24 hours to 48 hours, we have another offer getting close to being ran off the internet. That's gross. I will leave it at that, though. You all have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.